Hello and welcome to another edition of Cranky Gun Reviews, and yes, it's another episode of rifle and pistol pairings. What I have for you today on this episode, and this being the 13th episode, I have the Ruger Mini14 rifle, which is chambered in 5.56 NATO and 223 Remington, and I also have a Smith and Wesson Model 469 9mm. Now, why would I possibly pair these two firearms up? Well, the reason is both of these I think were most popular in the 1980s. You know, the Mini 14's been around I think since the late 70s and it's still in production today. The Model 469 was only around in the early and mid 1980s, and these are just two firearms that I could picture myself or somebody else in the mid 1980s going out to a gun store and say, hey, I want a popular sporting rifle that I can take out and have some fun with and also use for defense or shooting animals that need to be dispatched out on a farm or something like that. And I also want a mid-size 9mm gun that's going to be very reliable, that's not too heavy, but heavy enough that it mitigates the recoil and it's a great shooting gun. So these are two things that I think a gun store employee back in the 1980s would offer to somebody to buy. The Mini 14, like I said, it's been around since the 70s. It's been a great gun. The action is designed on the M14 or the M1 Garand or the M1 Carbine. It's kind of similar. It has that rotating bolt lock assembly. And because this is in a 5.56 NATO cartridge, you can shoot the 5.56 NATO. There's a various array of different loads that you can buy for that. You can also shoot 223 Remington, so you can get some varmint loads that have hollow points. But I'm going to go ahead and put some rounds down range with this, and we'll see how she functions. Yes! All right, first 5 rounds. What's my impression? Well, you heard me say yes the first shot I pulled. That's what freedom sounds like. And it's very accurate enough for what it is with the iron sights on it out to, I'd say, 150 yards fairly easily. Or you can throw a scope on top of this thing and get a little bit better accuracy. Now, there's been tons of testing over the years with the Mini 14 versus the AR-15, and I think a run-of-the-mill AR-15 usually can get a little bit better accuracy than a Mini 14, but for guys like me that aren't doing precise target shooting, trying to get one MOA at 100, 150, 200 yards, this is a perfectly ample rifle for what you'd need to do. The Model 469, this particular example, I bought it back in 2023. I think this was the first gun I bought in 2023. And I've taken this out to the range many times. It is an absolute joy to shoot. Now, this is a double to single action 9mm semi-auto pistol. It has a bobbed hammer, so you cannot cock that hammer for the first shot. So this really is a true double to single action. But it has a fantastic trigger. Once it's in single action mode after the first shot, it has a very light trigger in single action mode and a very short, crisp reset. It has low recoil because the gun is pretty heavy. It has an aluminum lower frame and a steel slide and barrel. And it has, I believe, 12 round magazines that it comes with. I will say, this probably has the best trigger out of any of my carry pistols. And granted, it's a little bit big and it's a little bit heavy to carry, but the trigger on this is amazing. And the function is just as good. It's a very compact, lightweight for its time, and a very carryable gun because it has a shorter barrel than your standard Model 59 or Model 39, and because it has that double to single action bobbed hammer and a decocker, it's a very safe gun to carry and still very accurate to shoot. So again, this is the mid-1980s kind of sportsman gun, and I think these two pair up pretty well together, the Ruger Mini 14 and the Smith and Wesson Model 469. Thanks again for watching another edition of Cranky Gun Reviews. God bless America. Support your 2A rights. Get out there and shoot. And you remember, if someone asks you to give up some of your freedom for the greater good, remind them that freedom is the greater good.